Welcome back, beautiful souls. Thank you for lending me some of your consciousness, your attention, your imagination, if you will. I was just listening to a newer song by Lucas Graham. It's called Call My Name. Anything with call in it in the title always reminds me of the band that my DM Rudy and I had, my Cabbit. That's what my nickname for him. That only I am allowed to call him. And even if anyone else ever did call it to him, both he and I know it would never be the same, so I'm comfortable with that. In any case, we had a band called Call Me Crazy. And that was some of the funnest times of my life. I still love our oldest son because he was little when we did that. We had music through the house all the time. Drums in the living room, guitars and everything. Kids could play with it all. Sometimes we made the most glorious noise. And other times we made music. And our oldest, who's now 16, when he was little, he'd hear our songs after my DM and I would play them with a friend most of the time, and then my DM would clean it up a lot, redo parts if necessary, and help me record and get just that right vocal, or he would record and get brave enough and do his. And we'd show these songs to our kids. And our oldest, Eamon, he would ask me regularly in the car, Mom, why isn't your and Dad's music on the radio? I like that big rock star song. I'd like to hear it on the radio. I just love that so much. You know what's funny too is I don't remember all of the lyrics to the songs that we've written, but I know that the big rock star song, it's actually called Gypsy. Because both my DM and I have gypsy ancestors in part of our lineage. And I didn't know that at the time, but I knew that he did. I didn't know that I did because I was adopted and I had not connected with my biological family yet. And I wrote this song. It was like a cheesy love song. It was meant to be a corny romantic gesture and also to kind of make fun of corny romantic gestures because that's how we've both always been. And I remember in the chorus, like there's some part in it that's like, and if you don't believe, well, that's okay. I'll be the first to say I told you so. Which is funny too because I think it was before my DM had told me how traumatized he'd been by his first wife with her constantly saying, I told you so. I told you you'd screw it up. I told you you'd fuck it up. I told you you couldn't get better, like shit like that. But I think it was healing still because it was us and it was music and it was fun to say it. I wrote a song called Capricorn too that was like, what is it? Oh, somebody who wouldn't kill to be like me. Like, I don't know. I was just, a lot of my life I've had people think that I'm better than them. And I can guarantee you like 99% of the time I don't. I see pretty much everybody as equal. Even people that you could conceivably say are less successful, less mature, less whatever, I still see everybody as pretty much equal. I acknowledge that we do all get into different places, and I've got a big brain and a big heart, and I do a lot of things a lot of people don't feel courageous enough to do, but I still don't see myself as any better than anyone else. I'm just doing my best, like I think everyone else is doing. Even the people that sometimes you gotta call them in about the shit that they're doing. And I was thinking about that Call My Name song. Say Luke is talking about seeing his lover and being like, I know you hardly take any time for yourself or anything. It's funny because I can remember being that person who almost never took any time for myself, and I had every reason and excuse for not doing it, just like my DM. And it was about the point in time that I'd asked him to go and grow that the differences became apparent. You know what I mean? And he wanted to. He tried so hard. I didn't see it in myself. I didn't see it in myself. I didn't have the self-confidence. I didn't feel like he could really want me or choose me, that I had it within me that it could be okay if he was mad at me sometimes, even that, and anybody, like, I mean, the place that I came from to be here doing this video right now, it already feels like an incredible journey, you know. When I think about that song Call My Name, it's funny because I scroll down and I like seeing the movies that YouTube will pop up. Sometimes I recognize it's because I've said something in a video or whatnot and the algorithm pulled it up, but there are other times that I have not said anything, and I know it's either my guides reminding me of my beautiful, loving heart and the adventures we've been on, or it's my DM. And even if it's just my imagination, I'm okay with that too, because, you know, one of the movies that popped up, well, two of them together, was Urban Cowboy with John Travolta. And then the newer one, a newer movie, Coal Miner's Daughter, about Loretta Lynn. And both of those remind me of my DM. He does have a sort of John Travolta-esque style mixed in with the other styles that he has, especially in almost like Saturday Night Fever. But he's more rocker than disco. Definitely not been a disco guy, but you know what I mean, the swagger, the way you carry yourself. Both a gentleman and a player, and most of the time. But also not unwilling to be absurd or to play the bad guy or then the good guy. I can think of so many different John Travolta movies where it's like, yeah, I could see that in my Cabbit. And I know he'd like that too. And then the Loretta Lynn thing. I can't tell you how many beautiful memories I have sitting with him for 20 years, hearing of him tell me about his mama's favorite music. You know what I mean? Growing up on Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton and Patsy Cline and oh, how many others. I could just go on and on and on. And that's part of what I love about him, that we could sit and be doing anything. He would sit there as a cancer man telling me all the things he loves about his mama. You know? And then oftentimes correlating that to what he sees in me and loves in me. Because we're actually only one day away on our birthday. Obviously different years, but we're pretty similar. And they do say a man falls in love with a woman who reminds him of his mother in all the best ways, just like women tend to fall in love with men who remind them of their fathers in all the best ways. Or if you're not healed yet, it could be lined up with people like your parents in not the best ways. Oftentimes it's a combination of both. And I just love the amount of times too, like even over the past 22 months while he's been in the stickiest, messiest, most absurd pirate circus he's ever manifested. He sent me things like his thoughts about walruses and kings and Humpty Dumpty and what sorts of adventures his imagination has come up with that his stuffy cabbie has been on. And he sent me so many text messages saying, I held a boundary today. Or I'm gonna set boundaries. Or he's told me about how he's ready to stand up for himself. He knows the difference between want and need. He's not gonna take any more disrespect. And he knows he can say that to me, and that one, I believe him. Even all the times that he doesn't get there yet. Because I know he will. I know he will. That's part of what I love about him, you know? I love that he has a lion through my teeth voice. I'm going to say that. And I love how many decades we've gone through that I knew that early on. And I never had a term for it. So, I mean, even, I want to say everybody told me not to tell him how I could tell when he's lying, but I actually enjoy much more often telling him exactly how he gives himself away. Not just because I'm not trying to catch him doing anything and I prefer that he be genuine, but because I know that that helps him be a better person for everyone else around too, you know? And it helps him love himself. I love that my Cabbit, so many times in the past 2 summers, has come over, come to be with the kids, despite the crazy pirates he's sunk himself in with, who will not let go for nothing. I mean, they're like, we got those alligators that do the roll and everything. They're like that, and mixed with leeches and stuff like that, which is his term for them, leeches. Not vultures who will pick you dry and leave you alone. Leeches who will want you to stay plump and fat so they can keep sucking. That's what he says. And I love that that's where he would go with that. That that's part of his shadow side and also his acknowledgement of the situation, right? But I love that he has a lion through his teeth voice and that he gets worried about talking to me because no matter how much he tries, he can't really lie to me. The real question is, am I going to pretend that I don't know that it's a lie and allow him to do whatever thing without saying that I know he's full of shit? Or am I going to say, are you going to tell me the truth now? You know? I love that about him. I love that he gets himself in the craziest messes and creates situations where either I gotta choose, do I be cold and cruel like the rest of the world and say, fuck it, you've not been good to me and cut you off, or do I look back at all the times I said, I'm not gonna rescue you anymore and say, oh, I guess this time. You know, like, crazy as it is, I'm grateful for that. I've never had so many adventures in my life, and I certainly, as a kid, being told that I was just bad, that I just hurt people all the time, even though I certainly had no intention to, and mostly just by being a kid with neurodivergence, ADHD, and a little autism, and not talking enough or talking too much, being too kind or not kind enough, too polite or not polite enough. I still remember the day that I met my DM, like officially, because he says he saw me the day before riding around on my bike, in my tomboy clothes. But I still remember that first day. I didn't know what adventure held. I mean, I wasn't in a place in my life where I was like, yeah, I'm looking for that forever person. I was 15 at the time, actually. He was 23. Hot shot in a Monte Carlo classic car, out showing it off to his cousin. Beautiful smile. I knew he was trouble. The trouble was exactly what I was looking for, you know? I knew I was trouble too. In fact, everybody that he was courageous enough to mention about me, with or without my age, told him already, she's trouble. But you know what? I think that's exactly what he was looking for then too, you know? And I love that I'm the type of person who would be a fool for love. And somehow only my DM could create a situation glorious enough for me to be able to do that and also finally be finding the courage to stand up for myself and my kids and for him and for many, many kids that I can't even fully talk about yet. To be in a situation where if it's not my life being risked by people who send me threats all the time through 20 years, then it's legal threats to be quiet or to repay them for damages done for speaking the truth of their abuses. Like, I mean, it's not the story I necessarily would have picked. I think if it was me, I probably would have foolishly picked a very boring story. You know, the whole happily ever after thing, the whole fairy tale thing. So, you know, I think it's been throughout my life seeing some sort of beauty in the things that most people disregard, in the people that most people disregard. I think that's part of what called in these adventures and this absurd yet wonderful life, you know? I just saw on Facebook earlier too. There was an album, a vinyl sale, and I love it. My DM loved his vinyls. And my grandparents, when I got us into the house that we were in, the blue house, they had left some behind, and of course he went through every one, even the ones that were irrelevant or valueless to anybody else. They meant something to him, even if he didn't know the band. And I still remember taking him on that adventure to Astoria, Oregon to get pizza. And we went into a thrift store or an antique store. It was one of the first ones we went. We always meant to go back to antique stores. It's so fun to be with him in an antique store, especially when none of his bullies or anybody around to make fun of him for all the stuff he finds cute or wants to play with or touch, like he was never allowed to as a kid. I still remember. I remember our first year in the apartments that I got for us, and it came time for tax season. And I said, you know what? You've been through a lot, and I've been through a lot. Let's use this to celebrate, okay? We can find a way to budget to make sure we keep up on bills and stuff. We weren't behind at that time either, so it was like, you know what? I want I want a few things out of this, but I want you to spend this on you. And he was so adorable. He wanted this, so his friend had a, what would you call it? Okay, so he always had this Tascam I think it was 4-track or 8-track recorder. He wanted a big version of that. Like if you go into a studio, problem is they usually have names like XJ blah 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 something like that, but it's like a big soundboard basically, but it has like the ability to connect it to make CDs and stuff like that. Then we went to Guitar Center, and when we talked to them there, because I had already gotten into all sorts of equipment like that, that you could do all the same stuff and you didn't need it. You just needed a computer and maybe a MIDI keyboard. And he was so impressed. So impressed. I loved it. And so when we went there and we talked to them, they said, actually, for what you want to do, for the amount of recording you want to do, the talent you have with instruments and things like that, you're much better off getting a MacBook. We spent, I think, like $1,500, maybe a little bit more than that, getting him that. And it was so great, too, because when we were in there, like, we got new cords, we got a MIDI device, and I even had him pick out this bag that it was basically too heavy and kind of smelled funny. He didn't really like it, but he used it anyways just because he knew, like, he was just so happy that we went and did it. It was great. And I still remember, like, when we sat in the apartment on his white leather couches, and I told him, let's spend this on you. What do you want? What have you wanted for so long that you've either not let yourself have or that somebody told you was a waste of money? And he said he wanted to put time into his music. He wanted a little studio. And we even got the drum mics and everything. He was so excited, too, when, I remember when he said, I don't know what to do with my storage. And I was like, bring it all here. I mean, if it'll fit, bring it in. And he was like, really? Like, really, really? I was like, I don't have nothing. I took a leap of faith to get this apartment to be able to offer us both sanctuary and try to build a life from the rubbles of what we were leaving behind, with our almost 2-year-old at the time. And he was almost, I want to say, what's the word, flabbergasted at the idea that I wanted him to spoil himself a little bit. That even in the store I'd say, you know what, if we got the money, get it. Get it, get it. Get it, honey, get it. And I can think of how many times that I've watched that man sacrifice everything he is for his family and his friends, no matter what they do to him. It's not healthy, no, but I still love him for it. And that's why I loved every moment that I got to be like, hey, mister, what about you? I don't usually have a problem going and getting stuff for me. And I loved being there and being like, did you think about you today? Did you do something good for you today? What are you grateful for today? One of my other favorite things about him, too, it's pretty common with Cancer Sun as a life theme, but he's particular, and he helped me learn how to help a lot of other people simply by this interesting form of communication where He had trouble finding his words. He's deeply empathic too, so people with big energies and that are dominating or anything like that, or even just big energies that are good, like mine, it's hard for him to string the words together sometimes. And he really wanted to be able to communicate with me better, but like normal words were not helpful for a while. And so I can't even remember. I think I watched a TED talk or something weird, and I asked him one day, I said, "What does that feeling smell like?" And he was able to answer that, and I was able to understand what he meant by whatever that emotion smelled like. And we were able to communicate in a whole new way. And from that, he was able to then find his way to communicating his feelings and his thoughts with words. I was so proud of him. You know how many times that man was like a one sentence, one word kind of man, and he strung together the most beautiful poetic paragraphs for me sometimes. And I know he could have communicated it in fewer words, but he wanted to. He wanted to put them all together that way and send it to me that way because he knew that I'd love it. And I love that in an effort to neither concede that he'd made some, I don't know about wrong choices, there are no wrong choices, but some choices that led to places that he did not want to return to and some messes he did not want to be in. That in order to keep himself sane and still connected to me and our boys, he started writing stories about his stuffy and the other stuffies that he had, his little adventures, and he would share them with me, telling me that nobody else really got it or really wanted to hear it, and even if they did, they really couldn't understand in the ways that, oh, I definitely understand. I love that about him. I love a lot of things about him, you know. He's one of the few people I think in this world. Like I love everybody unconditionally these days. So I feel like he's probably the only one aside from our kids, including his daughter, who actually deserve like a forever place in my heart. I don't care if he rides off into the sunset or leaves the country or totally screws me over. You know what? He's been good enough to me to last so many lifetimes, despite his was it proclivities or what he calls flaws or what anybody else says is why you should never do anything other than nail his balls to the wall. Like, no, Bug is amazing. He's amazing to everybody, but he's been especially amazing. And he's been especially amazing to me. Yeah, he's got some shit to work on. He definitely needs to work on cleaning up his relationship with our oldest son. He's definitely screwed the pooch on that one more than enough times. Though thankfully, being as good as he has been, and me being who I am, that door is probably always going to be open. And even as hurt as he is, our oldest son has faith in his dad too. Because he sees the people who have been there forcing and blackmailing and gaslighting his dad into becoming a pretty shadowy version of himself. He sees. And he knows. He knows what that's like. You go through life and that happens through school. It happens online. It happens in person. Do you know what? I'm so proud of our kids. And so many people want to be the first ones to come to me and be like, they're only good because you're good. Do you know how shitty that sounds? Like, I feel like people come and say that stuff to me, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I know that they're trying to, like, get on my good side and make me feel in some kind of way or be mad at him. And I don't understand why they don't get that even if they were correct about that, that I'm the kind of person that I do not value anybody who would come to me and tell me that I am all good and somebody else is all bad. Least of all, somebody I say that I genuinely love and do see goodness in. And also, I'm not perfect. If you're trying to tell me that you feel that I am perfect, you're already pedestaling me, and that's unhealthy and not stable. And you know what I love? I love that my Cabbit would fall in love with people that Nobody else seems to find any redeemable qualities in but him. And you know what? You know why I love that? Because when I was healing from my feelings while he was out with these people, I was looking for their redeemable qualities. you know? And when I made new friends and went different places and I met people that both physically and emotionally and intellectually and like even astrologically matched up with so many different characteristics of the people that have been bullying him and me and our kids and their kids, like there were so many moments that it was like, oh shit, I've lined up with somebody that's like his bullies. And I found myself in the position of thinking, you know what? Do I cut this person off because not only do I see it in the stars and everything else, or do I recognize that this is probably part of why my Rudy Bug saw good in those people too? Because there is good, even amongst the ugliness. I love that about him, you know? And I love that, of course, you know, he'd rather put on a mask and pretend to be machismo in front of everybody else. I love that I'm the only person that knows truly of all of his goodness and light. And the funny thing is, it's not that it's not there around other people. They're not looking for it. They're looking for ways to defend themselves, maintain their fears, and project and shit like that. But if they were, he'd be too anxious to let them see his squishy side, to see his angry pants side, to see his jealous side, to see his kinky side, to see him sit and play music for hours and days and weeks. I love that I would be the only one he would show that to, making it an almost improbable situation that anybody will support me, not just in supporting the kids and myself, but in supporting him. like, only my Cabbit could manifest such a situation, you know what I mean? And I love that because I look around at all the people around me, the new and the veteran, when I say I love everything about him, and they sit there and go, well, I would hate that. And I'm like going, it sounds like it sucks to be you. you know what I mean? Like, not in a mean way, but like those same people, whether they're people I know very deeply and dearly and are close to me, or whether they're people I'm more acquaintances with, I'm sitting here and I usually listen to them go on and on about how they feel like the world is put upon them. And go on and on about how they had this horrible abusive ex and parents and how they wish that the world would see them and help them, how they wish that someone was there for them, how they know how screwed the system is, how, they'll go on and on and on about it. And when I tell them, no, I genuinely find the brattiness adorable. I like that he gets into weird little messes. I'm not encouraging them. Trust me. The reason that I asked him to go find himself is I was like, this is crazy. Though in taking the time to heal and not be in relationships myself for a while, like I asked him to do, and doing the therapy and doing the work, and being authentic about how I feel, no matter how much people made fun of me or talked shit about me, any of that stuff, like, regardless of that, I was like, nope, still in love with him. And I love how many people that will sit there and tell me that they wish that somebody would believe in them or help them or just be there for them even when they're not being well behaved. And when I express to them that I love my Rudy Bug, my Cabbit, regardless of what he does, regardless of what if he wants to be with me or not, regardless of if we talk or see each other, regardless of any of the circumstances, that I love him without agenda. They don't believe it. they don't believe it. Most of them don't know him at all, And what's funny is even those that do know him very well and have told me massively in private that they believe that, and they still won't go out there publicly and do it. They still ask me, "Are you sure? Are you sure he's not tricking you? Are you sure that he really gave you, that he really wants your help? Are you sure that he's not just a narcissist?" And once we get past all of that and I can prove, no, he's a real life human being that's in a sticky situation and needs help being, you know, being abused in domestic violence situations with multiple people, not just the one person he's in. Then when I describe that to them, they immediately, most of them go to this place of, well, he needs to put his balls back on, or he's a coward. And I'm sitting there because most of these people that say this shit have been in similar situations and would have been pissed to oh holy high hell if somebody had told them that they felt like they needed to put their boobs back on or put their balls back on. Same thing with the people who are like, you just need to do you. I am doing me. I am 100%. Finally, right? Or the people that are like, well, you should just ice him out or let him fall, like walk away because clearly you provide enough love and light that he will fail miserably without you and then he'll learn his lesson. But you know how many of those people have hated it when I said, you know what, you're not really the kind of person that I want to call friend right now. And then they fell horribly. And they would have been pissed if somebody laughed about it or was standing there being like, I told you so, you should have done what I said. Or whatever shit that they wanted to tell me or tell others was of higher value than just being a loving, kind person who is understanding and compassionate and unconditionally loving. I love that this is more so a test of my own beautiful, too big, loving heart than anything else. I love that in the position that I'm in, it has to be about me. Even in choosing him, which is ironically and karmically what I wanted from him, right? To go against all odds, to defy all of his bullies and stalkers and abusers and family and everybody, to just not with the middle finger up, because that would be his first way. And I've always told him, no, Cabbit. There are more mature ways to do the same thing. Well, not the same thing. You shouldn't even energetically be wanting to give someone the middle finger. That's how they pull you back in. They get you reactive and angry, right? And I love that, like, even over the past 22 months, like, when his karmics and his abusers are, like, bearing down on him at one crisis after another, one fight after another, being ganged up on, he will still find a way to take a moment to send me something that's like, I don't know, like a view into what's going on for him. I love that he's the type of guy that I could have a text message, screenshot evidence of him telling me I could tell him so if I wanted to. And me not doing that because I am far better than anyone he's ever been with. And I'm not like the other feminines. And instead I took that time to say, you know why I appreciate you in this journey so much? Because I have been through so much and predicted so much and learned so much about people, despite y'all's Miss Cleo jokes and all that, that I have had like at least 50 people in the last 22 months, whether they talked to me every day or they called me up like months after a reading to thank me. Not only for being accurate, but for speaking good things, like speaking in happy things. Because you know how many readers and people you can go to that'll tell you how much scary shit is coming your way, how much more you got to go through that's arduous. I give honest readings. I don't bullshit people, though. I'm looking for what is there for you that's a blessing, that's a good thing, that's shadow work that can lead you to feeling lighter so you can do your light work. And I wouldn't have learned any of that if it wasn't for my Cabbit and exactly the story that it is as we have it. Heck, I can remember when I finally got him to go. And then, of course, I'm in my, oh shit, what did I do sort of thing. And in my instability, I started writing these poems, spoken word poems sort of things. It was on my Fat Life where we were having fun before. And then even some on my Facebook. And none of them were written with the intention to hurt him at all, but it was expressing feelings of things that I didn't know how to get out to him before that I was hurting myself on. It wasn't him hurting me, but I was hurting myself on it. A lot to do with being born a very androgynous person. And then, like, picking personality wise to kind of remain very androgynous, even though I fully feel 100% like a lady. Like, but I remember it because he called them words that sting. And I felt bad, and I was crying and messaging him, like, I'm sorry, I know that it probably hurts you or kills you inside of this. And he goes, no, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to know what I did. I know you've been trying to tell me. I didn't know, and it's not the kind of sting that's like, ouch, I want to run away. It's like when you finally convince me to go to get tattoos. It's like a good kind of sting, and the end result is worth it. I love that my Cabbit is the type of guy that he could have every pirate and their mother and father and exes and all their kids riding piggyback on his back, threatening him, knives, guns, everything else, ruined reputation, and yet he still finds a way to come and see me sometimes. Or if he sees me at a park while he's driving around, he'll either stop by or he'll text me asking me, is that a good place to hide? Because my Cabot knows. He knows that I know who he is. He knows that I delight in everything he does, even if I don't agree with what he's doing. I still, I just love him being himself in whatever way he takes his story. Oh, you know what I find extra delicious and delightful about that? Most people do not believe me. They do not believe I exist. And they don't believe that I could love them the same. And even if that's true, they often then feel jealous or envious that I might not, like, engage with them codependently in the way that my and Rudy's relationship started out, because they see the way that I love him and they want it. And even though I'm happy to give it to them with the same boundaries that I hold with Rudy now, they hurt themselves on it. You know what I mean? Like, that I won't give 100% of my time, that I will make time for my self care, that I can love anyone and everyone without being crazy, without needing anything. Most of them don't believe it. Most of them question it or challenge it or try to convince me to think other things or go elsewhere. I've been checked by therapists. I mean, am I 100% fine? No, probably not. I've been through too much in my life. Though I've seen multiple therapists throughout my life, I've always taken myself to therapy. Mostly because I enjoy psychology. I have a weird nerdy love of it, but also because I wanted a space to safely speak my story and to understand if I was crazy or if there was something wrong with me. Because it's funny, there's a part of me that wants to say I've never been, though then there's another part of me that's like, don't speak that story anymore. Former versions of me. Oh, thank you, the lady. It's funny, your name is a sync to me. I saw you earlier in the DM channel message, the lady 777. Thank you for being born. But no, like, I've had more therapists than most people probably even willing to see. And I've gone through and I've told them about every absurdity going on in my life. And all of them have told me that actually the problem is that I am quite sane in a world of a lot of people that don't feel that way, so they don't act that way. A lot of people didn't get the modeling, and I didn't either. That's the irony. A lot of people look at me and they think, well, you had it better off. I mean, maybe I did in some ways, though. If you knew my story, if you asked me about it before judging that, you'd likely know that I had it just as bad, if not worse, than a lot of the people that I've been talking about. You know what I love, too, about Mike Cabot? He believes me. Lately, he's had challenges with it, but you know what? I give great empathy for somebody being exhausted and drained for all of their time, energy, everything, being blackmailed and threatened and all that stuff. Like, yeah, you know what? I would have problems trusting anybody too. And so, like, but I mean, for the rest of our story, 20 years of our story, he always believed me. I didn't even realize that was true until after I had him go and he got into the sticky situation that he's getting himself out of now. Let's just affirm that it's already true because I do have that faith in him. And I know that he loves that about me. Like, you know how many times we've gotten into situations where the pirates around him have gotten us into various different fights that even I fell for, to where he thought it was done and over with. And I was like, hey there, mister. You ready for the next step? And he'd be like, I thought, this is so fucked up, I thought it was done. And I'm like, well, I didn't say it was going to stay that way, did you? Did you want to keep it this way? And he would take a deep breath and he would try again. There's so many things to love about him. I feel like, I mean, 20 years of knowing somebody, you got to know whether or not they're a good person or not, right? And you know what? As much as I have not been the perfect person either, I love knowing, like, I just had a thought in my head is like, I feel remorseful of all the times that I didn't believe him that all these people were the way that they have shown me that they are. I didn't believe him. But you know, the other thought that pops into my head though is like, oh honey, he would not still be holding on to your stuff, standing up for you, protecting the kids, protecting everybody, making a fool of himself if you were not that fucking lovable. And then I think about all the times that I just, out of my delicious nerdy passion for corny romantic gestures, real romantic gestures, all of that. You know how many? Like I'm gonna start telling the stories of them soon and be like, this was this one and this one and this one, like scavenger hunts and picnics and egg hunts and surprise gifts here and there. Like I just like doing that, and I love that he's so adorable that like. When we first got into the apartment I got, my favorite thing was I liked to buy him shirts. And like I mean he could buy himself clothes. Like I wasn't shopping for him, but I was getting him fancy shirts, button ups that he liked. So he could go play music with his friend in his band and just wear I wanted to wear it all the time. I was like, you look so yummy. I was like, you look yummy no matter what. You definitely look very yummy in this shirt with blue flames coming up the bottom and here put this fedora on, you know? And I just love that he loved that, and he loved it so much that there was it was like the first year we were in an official relationship, and I remember I can't even remember what I got busy with, but I had not done a romantic gesture in like a month, and he was acting funny, like he wasn't being mean or anything, but he's kind of moody. He's a Cancer, so that happens. But I was like, there's something weird about this, you know, and we hadn't developed enough rapport. Well, here's the weird thing: we developed a lot of rapport. Like when we were friends with benefits, he was open and honest with me 100%. And then when we got into a relationship, it was when his wife had really like shattered his heart again, and then she put through divorce so she could get remarried and fuck with him with his kids some more. So he was a different person at that point in time, but he still like the Cabot that I know and love was still there. It's just I knew that he'd been hurt a lot, you know, but he wasn't as open again. I mean, you know, our early story was about 4 years of interactions, you know, while he was trying to do his best to keep his marriage together, you know. And so when we got there, it was kind of like as if we'd started over, but from a space of like not having that rapport as much. And so he didn't want to tell me what he was feeling. And what I loved is he had another friend who was a Cancer, and they used to do these lunches together, and I just loved it. He'd always tell me, you know, you're the only woman I know that wouldn't be jealous of this. I'm like, are you kidding me? You go and you have so much fun with her, and you guys are so adorable together, you two cancery beings, and you always come back to me feeling like wonderful. Like, what's there to be mad about? What's there to be jealous of? And I know she had her own person, and they'd been friends for a long time, and I'd hung out with her a bunch. I'm like, what am I worried about? And he loved that, and I love that he loved that about me. that was significant to him. And that friend, it was so funny because I remember mentioning, like, I don't know why he's being so moody lately. Like, it's subtle, but it's there. And she goes, well, I'll tell you. But don't tell him I told you. I was like, no, I want him to feel like he still has confidentiality with you, and I trust that you're not going to tell me too much. And she goes, okay. So the problem is, you've been spoiling him a lot, and then you stopped, and he's feeling a little weird about it because he really liked it. But he doesn't feel like it's a very manly thing to say that he misses it because he feels like he should just be stoic through it because it's good enough that you already did all the stuff that you did, and even if it like dwindles out now, he wants to feel emotionally secure about that. Those aren't her exact words, but that's what she said, and I was like, oh my gosh, like in my mind, I'm like, what is there not to love about this guy? You know what I mean? Like, how adorable is that, right? And I can remember how many times his friends, a lot of his other bullies, would see us together, and like our fights for a long time, our arguments were never really fights or arguments. Like, it's just something about us. I can't claim it on myself. It's him too. It's part of why our boys are so amazing. It's both of us, you know? But we would kind of have these, like, it's like instead of being like, you did this thing or whatever, it'd be like, oh, honey, you left the mustard jar out again. And I'd be like, that's right, I did. What you gonna do about it? And like I mean, we go through it, and I knew that he meant it, and I knew that I needed to, it just bugged him. It wasn't a need thing, but he was communicating that he would like me to make sure I put the mustard and the mayo back in the fridge, and I was okay with that. It took me a little bit with my neurodivergence, but I figured it out. And his friends would love to tease us in not very kind ways, but I mean, we always took it with stride. It was like, what's this foreplay? Like, what is this? What is this that? And we kind of sit there and go, I mean, it kind of is a little bit, like we would find the fun in it. We would find the beauty in it. And I can't think of one person really, even if they totally were screwing us over, talking shit about us, that we turned away for most anything. Not unless it was something that really like would affect the kids, and then it was usually me. My Rudy Bug has a hard time saying no. Been kind of a placater for a while. That was one of my favorite times too, that texted me and came over and told me, he's like, it's always my placating that gets me into trouble. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of adorable too. Well, y'all, I'm gonna get off here. I need to go get a new beverage, finish eating, do some journaling, do some dishes and some laundry, clean things up when nobody's looking, even though I know that it'll perpetuate the story that I'm never here and I never do anything. It's okay. I'm glad that my heart's filled with love. No matter whether I walk my journey alone or in person or with people or like having you, the lady 777. It's a good one. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for y'all. I'm definitely grateful for my Cabbit.